Good morning and welcome to today's webinar, 2018 Funding Opportunities for Outdoor Youth Programs. My name is Severia and I'm the Communications Manager for Transforming Youth Outdoors, also known as TYO. TYO is created to scale the impact of outdoor youth development and transform the lives of youth by providing best practices, tools, and support to individuals and organizations working with youth. We are a technology platform that enables those in the field of outdoor youth programming to learn, share, network, and build upon successes. Membership to TYO is free, and you can sign up at mytyo.org. This webinar series is just one of the many ways that TYO connects you to experts and valuable learning opportunities. It is my pleasure today to welcome back Ivan from the Outdoor Foundation for today's webinar. The Funding Opportunities for Outdoor Youth Programs webinar has now become an annual event where we get to share this year's exciting new grant opportunities, and this year does not disappoint. So I'm very excited today to welcome back Ivan. And Ivan, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Severia, and thank you to everyone at TYO for having me on today. It's something that I actually look forward to every year, so I'm so glad that I'm able to connect with everybody on today's webinar and love working with the folks over at TYO. So thank you for this opportunity. So today I wanted to take some time to talk to everyone out there about kind of two different buckets of funding opportunities. One of them, one of the buckets are funding opportunities that the Outdoor Foundation and myself are directly involved in. And then I wanted to share some additional opportunities that I work with in partnership ways, but I'm not directly managing those programs. But I thought they would be great resources for those of you out there, either now or at a later time. So, and then as Severia mentioned, we'll answer kind of all the questions at the end. So hello again, my name is Ivan Levin. I'm the Deputy Director of the Outdoor Foundation. I've been with the Outdoor Foundation for 7 years now, and I oversee all of the foundation's grant making, engagement, youth engagement specifically, all of our on-the-ground programming, as well as research and many of our strategic partnerships. As I mentioned, I've been with the foundation now for 7 years, but prior to that, I was with the National Park Foundation as a grants and programs director. And prior to that, I was with the American Hiking Society and ran their National Trails Day and other trail programs. And in my spare time, I also teach 2 or 3 classes a semester at George Mason University outside of Washington, D.C. in the School of Recreation, Health, and Tourism. So enough about me. Let's go ahead and jump into what we are all here to talk about today. So the Outdoor Foundation, you know, we are in a unique role in the nonprofit space as well as in the outdoor industry because we are the philanthropic arm of the trade association, the Outdoor Industry Association. Our mission is to engage and inspire future generations of outdoor leaders and enthusiasts. And we do that through youth engagement, research, but more importantly, through community grant making. So since 2010, the Outdoor Foundation, on behalf of its partners, has invested more than $5 million into 930 nonprofit projects that's engaged more than 262,000 people in the outdoors. And 90% of every dollar of our work goes directly into getting more people outside. So we live and breathe this and are excited to be able to present these opportunities for you today. So a lot of you know me, you see my name in your inboxes or in random places connected to all sorts of different programs. For years now, I've been helping the North Face manage the North Face Explorer Fund. So the North Face Explorer Fund is one of the major ways that the North Face supports outdoor exploration. And every year they grant out $500,000 to nonprofits across the country that are working on innovative ideas, both large and small, in regards to how people engage with the outdoors, specifically getting more people excited about the outdoors, making the outdoors more accessible, and more recently also focusing on the protection of the places that we love to play. This program has been in existence since 2010, and they've given out $2.75 million to more than 500 nonprofits, and they are thrilled to support even more projects in 2018. So a couple of nuances about the grant. First of all, you as a nonprofit can ask for $5,000 to $25,000 in grant funding. Not only can you select the amount that you're requesting, but then you'll also provide a line item budget to back up those expenses. This grant program is currently open, and the application will close on April 4th. So we've got about 3 weeks left before the deadline. And you can find all the information you need at explorefund.org. And it's also listed here in the presentation, which you will get a copy of. The North Face Explorer Fund this year is specifically focusing on two main categories. The first is enabling new explorers, which is all about introducing underrepresented communities to outdoor adventure in potentially new and interesting ways. And the second category under the Explorer Fund is protecting our environment. So specifically looking at ways to engage new and diverse communities and protecting their ecosystems and the ability to continue enjoying them. So this is really getting to not only direct participation, but also stewardship and care and conservation of the lands that we love to play in. So both of these are equally important to the North Face, and they don't necessarily divide the funding up 50-50 by the categories, but it's pretty close to that, really trying to fund an equal number of direct enabling new explorer applicants, as well as protecting our environment. And you can select which category you're applying for once you get into the application itself. You are also allowed to submit more than one application if you feel like that's the best use of your time. As far as eligibility, you do need to be a 501c3 nonprofit in the United States or have a formal relationship with a qualified fiscal sponsor. Another important thing about eligibility is that the majority of the funds should go towards direct program costs, and depending on the amount that you're requesting, a small amount or percentage of your request can go towards overhead or keeping the lights on. The applications, once they're received, are evaluated in a couple of different rounds of review, not only through an external review group, but also internally with a few VIPs at the North Face. So there is a few rounds of review that each application goes through, and those applications are evaluated on the impact that they have on the communities that they're serving, the values of the organization, the design and innovation of the program, as well as the organizational capacity and the funding capacity of the organization. So those are just a couple of things to really keep in mind. But just a few kind of off the cuff comments about the Explorer Fund. They're really looking for innovative and different and creative ways that organizations across the country are engaging these underrepresented communities in outdoor adventure. So it can't just be the same program that are amazing and impactful, but we see everywhere across the country. We're really looking for new and innovative ways to engage audiences. And I also want to specifically mention underrepresented. So oftentimes when people hear underserved or underrepresented, they automatically think of ethnicity or race. And I just want to be clear that this does not necessarily mean those categories, although it does include them. It also talks about gender, sexual orientation, ability level, skills level, urban versus suburban. You know, there's many different ways that a population can be labeled underrepresented. It does not necessarily mean color of your skin. So just keep that in mind as you're thinking about the populations you're working with and the ways that you're choosing to engage with them. Again, any questions you have about that program, we'll answer at the end of the webinar. New this year for the portfolio of the Outdoor Foundation, I don't know how many of you out there are actually from Canada. I'm guessing not many, but I wanted to mention this because not only if you are based in Canada, but also if you work with organizations or work or have other professional relationships in Canada that you think this might be a good opportunity for, I encourage you to pass the word on as we are trying to grow this program for the Canadian version of the North Face. So this year, for the first time, the Explorer Fund Canada is working with the Outdoor Foundation to provide grants to organizations exclusively in Canada that connect people to the outdoors and support outdoor exploration with youth as a primary focus. So it's more general than the US version. The US version has evolved and been extremely refined over the years. The Canadian version is a little bit more 10,000 foot, a little bit more general. They're really generally excited about getting kids outside. So it's a little bit different of a perspective. Eligibility for the North Face Canada Fund is organizations must be designated or registered as a charitable organization, private foundation, or public foundation by Canada's Charities Directorate. So the equivalent of a 501c3 here in the US. They must be based and operate in Canada, and funds can only go directly towards program costs. The other difference is that grants typically range up to $5,000, and that is the max amount that you can apply for. So there's a smaller pot of money, a smaller amount of grants that are given. And this program will open in the coming weeks and will close 4 to 6 weeks later. So I don't have an exact timeline on the grant. It's ready to rock. We're really just waiting for some web updates. So I expect this grant opportunity to open in late March, early April, and then we'll be open from 4 to 6 weeks after that. There is a link here directly to the application. If you go to the page now, it tells you to email me and give your email address, or feel free to ask questions at the end of this webinar. Moving on to another current and currently open grant program through the Outdoor Foundation, which is called the Paddle Nation Grant. This is the 6th or 7th year that we've been offering this grant. It's one of our most popular. It specifically is looking to award 501c3 nonprofits with grants up to $5,000 that supports projects and initiatives, that result in increased paddling participation. So really specifically focused on young people getting out on the water through all sorts of different paddle sports. So that could be rafting, canoe, kayak, stand-up, and any other way, warrior canoe. I mean, there's so many different ways that people recreate outdoors on the water. It really is open to any of those paddle sports. Project criteria, obviously projects must increase participation in recreational paddling activities among youth and young adults. Projects should use paddling as a way to educate participants and provide them with the skills that they can enjoy for a lifetime. And one unique element of this program is that projects should have a local outdoor retailer, partner, or sponsor involved in the program that can offer program support, promotion, or partnership. So that does not necessarily mean dollars. It literally means, are they hosting events in their store? Are they coming out to one of the outings and talk about ways to get outside safely? There's all sorts of ways that a retailer can partner that doesn't involve cash. So just kind of keep that in mind. Another question that I've gotten about this program is that it does not have to be your traditional mom and pop. Some of you work with retailers or outfitters that are online or in other types of non-traditional ways. So as long as they're selling outdoor gear, they definitely can be a partner or sponsor of this program and will count for this requirement. So keep that with an open mind. As I mentioned, the application is currently open and it closes on April 13th. And I've provided the link to the application there where you can get more information. All right, another grant program that the Outdoor Foundation has been managing now for the 2nd year is the BOGS 2% for Outdoor Education Grant. So these grants are specifically intended to support nonprofit organizations working to connect kids of all backgrounds to innovative and impactful outdoor education experiences. So this grant is specifically focused on outdoor education versus recreation. It's looking at making sure that access is available for all kids across the country. And one cool thing about this grant program is that not only is BOGS giving away $5,000 cash grants, they're also providing more than $40,000 in in-kind donations. So with this application, once you get into it, you can select if you're looking for in-kind or financial support. Based on the type of support you're looking for, you can answer specific questions. And you are allowed to submit more than one application. So for some of you out there, again, resource dependent, if you have the capacity to do so, you can submit a financial request as well as an in-kind request as well. Again, you must be a 501c3 nonprofit organization and located in the United States. This program does offer 2 different grant cycles throughout the year. The next cycle for 2018 will open closer to summer, and the application will be open for 4 to 6 weeks after that. And I have provided the link to apply there where you can read all of the information. But again, the application is closed and will reopen closer to summer. Some additional information about the BOGS 2% grant. As I mentioned, it is intended to provide resources and dollars to remove barriers so that all kids can access outdoor education opportunities. We all know that many young people, especially underserved and low-income communities, often don't develop a relationship with the outdoors due to lack of education, access, and resources. And Boggs feels that every kid should have the opportunity to get outside. So nonprofit organizations have the opportunity to, again, ask for cash or in kind, and you can answer more specific questions once you're in the application. Okay, another grant under the Outdoor Foundation portfolio is the Prana Explorer Grant. So Prana believes that engaging young people through ongoing outdoor activities is key to developing a lifetime love for the outdoors and becoming a recreation enthusiast. Now, one unique thing about Prana is that they specifically are awarding 12 $5,000 grants, and you'll see on the next page that there are specific markets that they are focused on. But the purpose of the grant is really to help young people develop a lifetime activity and appreciation and love for the outdoors. So this idea of continuous outdoor recreation program offerings is key to this grant. The link to apply you'll see on your screen, and this program will open in April and will close 4 to 6 weeks later. The specific dates are still TBD. So as I mentioned, this program specifically is looking to engage underserved youth and encourage a passion for more outdoor adventures. As a result, positive, consistent exposure to outdoor activities, participants should become more comfortable and aware of local outdoor play opportunities. And with sustained engagement, that then leads to people organizing their own outdoor activities in the future. So as I mentioned, like the others, you do need to be a 501c3 nonprofit to be eligible. But unlike the other grants, there are 6 specific markets that Prana is focused on, and these will be the same as they were last year. So specifically, Adena, Minnesota, which is actually the Twin Cities, Denver, Boulder area, Manhattan Beach or LA in California, Portland, Oregon, San Diego, California, and San Francisco, Palo Alto, so the Bay Area of California as well. So specifically, those 6 markets are of interest. Some special requirements about this grant is that at the conclusion of the grant cycle, there should be at least one climactic outdoor event plan that could engage Prana in a meaningful way. For example, not only engaging the company and employees, but maybe there's a way to involve Prana athletes as well. Similar to Paddle Nation, projects should have a local retail partner who currently specifically carry Prana and should have them involved so that they're able to offer, again, similar to Paddle Nation, program support, promotion, or guidance. So again, that doesn't necessarily mean cash or mean cash at all. It definitely means in-kind or financial support from the local retail partner. All right, so those are all of the current funding opportunities that are under the Outdoor Foundation umbrella, but there are a few other funding opportunities that I wanted to mention that are relevant to, I believe, everyone on the call today. So these are other grants or funding opportunities to have on your radar. So Hydro Flask is another brand in the outdoor industry that we actually will be working with in 2018. The program just isn't currently open, and we're working out kind of all the details of the grant program itself. But Hydro Flask has this great program called Parks for All. And basically the idea behind the program is to get local communities connected to local parks, whether those are local or state parks, community parks, or national parks. It's really about getting people connected to their green spaces and helping to ensure that through recreation that we're developing relationships so that these special places can get attention and the protection that they deserve. So the Parks for All program through Hydro Flask provides grants to nonprofit organizations that are focused on building, maintaining, restoring, or providing better access to local parks. So as I mentioned, the Outdoor Foundation will be managing this program in 2018. It will be opening closer to July and August, so this summer. And to learn more, you can currently go to the Hydro Flask website listed on the screen, where you can learn more about the Parks for All program and some of the projects that have previously been funded. But this is definitely one to have on your radar, and grants could range anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000. Another great opportunity that has a deadline coming up soon is the National Environmental Education Foundation, which is technically the nonprofit arm of the EPA. As you know, or you might know, that they are the sponsoring organization of National Public Lands Day, which happens every fall. Well, they currently have a program open called the 2018 Everyday Capacity Building Grants. The deadline is April 13th, and these grants specifically are meant to provide friends groups with grant funds up to $5,000 to help build their organizational capacity to serve public lands. So I've provided the link to this grant. Again, it does close a month from now, or a little bit over a month from now, April 23rd. But I do want to mention that I believe there are 3 cycles to this grant. So if you apply now, you get funding in June. If you apply in the summer, you get funding closer to the end of summer. And if you apply in the fall, you get funding closer to the fall timeline. So I believe there's a rotating grant cycle, but the current one is open and closes April 23rd. So definitely one for you guys to check out if you're working with public lands. And not often do we actually hear organizational capacity building. That's really different than all of the other grants that I've mentioned that are really for direct program costs. So this could be a great option for you if you're a nonprofit and friends group. The National Recreation and Park Association also has numerous funding opportunities that they manage throughout the year. Currently, there are 7 grant opportunities listed and open on their website. And rather than reading through 7 grant opportunities that really I don't know a ton about, I just wanted to provide you with the link. Oftentimes, it's just a matter of turning on the light bulb and letting you guys know that there are grant opportunities out there. Everything from Parks and Rec to building a skate park and engaging youth. So I think across the board, there's a lot of these opportunities that would be extremely relevant to everyone on this webinar. So I encourage you to check them out. Again, just a great resource that I thought might be helpful. Not many people might know about these opportunities, so just to keep you aware. The Keen Effect. So Keen Footwear, which is a brand in the outdoor industry, they obviously make great shoes. They have a grant program that was established in 2013 called the Keen Effect. This is a program where Keen is committed to inspiring responsible outdoor participation to help preserve the places that they play. Similar to the other grants, you must be a 501c3 organization, but this grant is open globally. So not only for the United States, but also literally across the entire globe. There's $100,000 that's granted out every year. Grants typically range for, around $10,000 to nonprofit organizations committed to getting people connected to responsible outdoor participation. The application will open this summer. I've provided the link for you to learn more. And with full transparency, Keen is now managing this program internally. The foundation has historically managed this grant program, but Keen will be bringing it in-house this year. So reach out to Keen with any direct questions, and you can get all the information you need from the website at keeneffect.com. So those were all of the funding opportunities, specifically as far as quote-unquote grants that I wanted to mention. But just to give you an idea of some of the programming work that the Outdoor Foundation does that might be relevant to the work that you do or partners that you're working with, is we do a lot under campus and university engagement. One of our largest programs under youth engagement is called the Outdoor Nation Campus Challenge. This is a program where colleges and universities compete against one another to see which campus can log the most outdoor activity over a 4-week period. Registration for schools currently opens next week and will close May 4th, so there's a 6-week period. There's funding available to schools that are working to get more people in the campus community outdoors and active. And the challenge itself will begin on September 17th and run for 4 weeks. And I've provided the link there to the website for more information, and you can also share that website with any of your college and university partners. In addition to the Campus Challenge, under Outdoor Nation, again, youth programming at the Outdoor Foundation, we also have an ambassador program. So if that's of interest to you, we do work directly with individual young people on college campuses to get more people outside and active. Our ambassadors also have liability insurance, which allows them to take people outdoors without necessarily being sponsored by the school. We also have a program opening up shortly called the Northeast Campus Club Programs. So if you're working with colleges and universities in the Northeast region of the United States, we have a funding opportunity that will be opening shortly for those schools. And then just in general, we really focus on year-round campus engagement. So making sure that we're engaging college and campus communities year round and getting new audiences exposed to the outdoors, and really just helping grow a culture and appreciation for the outdoors on campus, on campuses, and in campus communities. So you can learn more at outdoornation.org or that oncampuschallenge.org address you see above you. And if you have any questions about our campus work, please feel free to let me know at the end of the webinar. So before we kind of turn it over to questions, if you do have any need for specific information, please contact me, Ivan, at ilevin@outdoorfoundation.org. If you have questions, or if you would be like to be added to our email list so that you're getting all the announcements about all of these different grant opportunities and more throughout the year, or if you have interest in our college and university work, I have a separate email list for that, which you would receive opportunities there as well. So if you want to be added and get information on these opportunities, email me at my email address. You can also check us out at outdoorfoundation.org. And before I stop talking, the last thing that I wanted to mention is that the third bucket under the Outdoor Foundation, in addition to grants and programs, is our research. So every year, we produce a yearly outdoor participation report, as well as special reports on activities like fishing and camping. If you would like access to those research reports or have any questions, please go to outdoorfoundation.org or shoot me an email and I can get you directly connected with all of that research as needed. And with that, I'll pause there and see what questions are floating out there.
Great, thank you, Ivan. We actually have a number of good questions. So there's a few related to the North Face. So one said they just wanted to give a heads up that the North Face website says the deadline is April 5th, not 4th. So just want to confirm that information.
I apologize. That actually might have been that might be an error on my part. So if the website says April 5th, then it's April 5th. My apologies.
Perfect, no worries. And then somebody said, I understand there's no longer an invitation code for TNF. Is there any reason why?
Well, number one, we have switched the way that we're managing the grants. So most of you are familiar, and if you're familiar with grants that I've managed, we use cyber grants. And the North Face has now switched to a different grant management software. And the way that they're looking at grants, they are no longer inviting groups to apply. They're looking to kind of have everybody have a fresh start.
Perfect. Okay. Is 10% overhead cost acceptable?
It depends on the amount that you're requesting. I don't have the table open in front of me, but I believe once you get into the application, it can be as much as 20% if you're asking for 25,000. I think if you're asking for 15,000, it's 15. And maybe 5,000 to 15,000, it might be 5 or 10%, but you can get those exact percentages in the application itself.
Perfect. Does the park's definition for Hydro Flask include wildlife refuges?
Yes, it really is a very loose term. So park does not mean park has to be in the name.
Perfect. Somebody's asking, yes, there will be a copy of the presentation posted on TYO. So while the recording will be posted up to TYO, as well as a copy of the presentation. So somebody's wondering about getting the links afterwards. Yep, and then again, so everybody on the webinar will automatically get sent a link to this. It'll also be put up on YouTube and on TYO in the next 24 to 48 hours. So those are good little housekeeping questions. All right, do you believe youth garden programs fit within the scope of these grants as outdoor education?
I'm sorry, repeat that one more time.
Yep, do you believe that youth garden programs fit within the scope of these grants as outdoor education?
100%. So for sure with the Boggs opportunity, the 2%, that definitely counts as an outdoor education opportunity. So anything around community gardening, school gardens, for sure.
Perfect. You had mentioned a number of times that you needed to be a 501(c) to be eligible. But this person's wondering, in the case of Hydro Flask and Boggs, can you be supported by a fiscal agent?
Yeah, with all of these, it's kind of across the board. You need to be a 501c3 nonprofit to be eligible or have a fiscal sponsor willing to take on that fiscal management role.
Cool. If an organization has been awarded the North Face or Paddle Nation grant in the past, these funders like seeing the continuation of the project that's been funded or something different?
I would say it's certainly new and innovative programs, if that makes sense. But I would say that if you're going after a second year or additional year funding, showing how the program has evolved or changed or lessons learned went into the shaping of the new program is important, I think, for these funders to do a duplicate grant.
Great. Do you have any tips for how fiscally sponsored organizations can strengthen their applications, in particular looking at the North Face grant?
I'm not sure. Maybe that person can fill in or reach out to me directly just with kind of maybe a more specific question, because it's a little bit broad. So maybe this person can reach out to me directly.
Sorry, I had myself on mute. So thanks, Tyler. So hopefully you heard the call out to reach out to Ivan directly. Next question, what's the turnaround on the Paddle Nation grant?
Pretty quickly, I believe the grant announcement will be just a couple of weeks after the deadline. So we tend to turn that one around pretty quickly because that is an outdoor foundation grant versus having another partner or sponsor on board. So we typically award those grants in May.
Great. Would a Paddle Nation request be more likely to succeed if two nonprofit organizations are working together?
For sure. I mean, I don't know if I can say more likely to succeed, but what I will say is collaboration and seeing all ships rise and groups working together is always a plus and can add more value and impact to your application. Just make sure that that is communicated well in the proposal so it's clear that this partnership is happening and why it's so great.
Perfect. And what was the deadline for the NEEF grant?
April 23rd.
Perfect. All right. With the North Face grant, do they typically award to programs participating in activities that their brand is synonymous with, climbing, skiing, mountaineering, hiking, or can they submit for a mountain bike program?
No, they definitely can submit for mountain biking. There is no specific list of activities that count and don't count. I will say that for sure. I mean, obviously, projects with mountaineering, oftentimes there's probably a good amount of those in the approved projects. But I will say that any way that you can communicate, and this is really true when we review applications, if there is that sense of exploration, if you can really communicate how a young person is getting that sense of exploration from their park down the street, that can be equal of an experience of climbing Everest. So I think it's really about how you talk about the experience and the impact that it has and how it really brings about this love and appreciation for exploration and outdoor recreation.
Awesome. And then also for the North Face grant, can the new innovative programs be proposed programs or do they have to be existing?
They can be proposed, but I think that they should be pretty baked. I definitely don't think it should be hypothetical. I think that it should definitely be like, this is what we want to do. This is how we're going to do it. And now you're looking for funding versus this is how we'd like to do it, or we could do it or should do it. And really those words, just as a side note, are things to be really careful of. Anytime we see organizations say they could do something or should do something, doesn't feel like they've super committed. So just make sure you're committed to your idea and go with it.
Awesome. Can they apply for capital with any of these funding opportunities?
No, I would say for all of these things that I've mentioned, capital is definitely something that we don't tend to fund. Really, with all of these opportunities, especially ones where there's a brand tied to them, they really want to quote unquote own, and I don't say that negatively, but they want to make sure their dollars have the biggest impact possible. So if it's just a percentage of a much larger budget or going towards some sort of capital project, it doesn't feel like there's a real impact or return on investment. So I would stay away from those requests.
Awesome. Regarding Hydro Flask, is there a grant open now by chance that is not managed by the Outdoor Foundation?
No, the Parks for All program, I believe the last cycle happened in 2017, and moving forward with whenever that next cycle opens will be under the Outdoor Foundation.
Great. Do you have any recommendations for new organizations that have not yet received a grant?
One, check out the webinar that we did with TYO in January around Grant Writing 101 and just kind of an insider perspective. So I think there's some good advice there that might, answer your question by watching a recording. But generally, I would speak, the first thing I thought of when you said that is, a lot of times new organizations or folks that haven't received funding in this way before, they spend a lot of time on the why. And, that might be relevant in some other industries, but for us, and at least the work that I do, we know the reason why it's important to get people outdoors. We know why we should protect land and create lifetime activities and engage diverse audiences. So just be cautious about spending too much time on the why and really focus on the how you're going to make a difference. So that would be my piece of advice that I offer now, in addition to that Grant Writing 101 webinar.
Yeah, I was definitely going to recommend that webinar as well. It's a really good one, guys, if you haven't checked it out. Okay, next question. If a nonprofit was to utilize their local state parks, would that count for the parks grant, or does it have to be based, or does the program have to be based in the park?
Say that first part one more time.
Right, so I think that what they're getting at is, like, if a nonprofit was to utilize their local state park, would that count for the park grant, or does the program have to be based in the park?
I guess the park has to be involved in a meaningful way. I think the whole point is to get people connected to their parks and love them and protect them. So if that can be done in this situation, I say go for it. But yeah.
Great. When proposing budget, do they include the grant money that's being asked for?
Well, the budget should only reflect the grant money that's being requested for. So don't provide a budget. And this is another thing. I'm glad someone asked this. If there's a $20,000 project and you're asking for $5,000, that's great. I don't really want to know the budget for the $20,000. I want to know how you're spending the $5,000, with a side note that says there's $15,000 of other expenses or the larger budget, whatever that might be. But the line item budget that I think all of these programs are looking at are really specifically how are you spending the money you're requesting, not what the larger global picture is.
Fantastic. Let's see. Regarding the Outdoor Foundation grants, can an organization apply and receive more than one grant from the Outdoor Foundation?
Yeah, 100%. So kind of consider us the magic behind the curtain. So these are all isolated individual funding opportunities. It's really just coincidental that we're the grant manager behind the scenes. So every single one of these is really, even though the check might come from the Outdoor Foundation, you could get, if you were the best grant writing person ever and a really good luck streak, you could get every grant technically that you apply for. It's just coincidence that we happen to be the grant manager.
Perfect. And also, somebody asked about the link for the grant writing webinar, and I just put it in the chat box. I put the YouTube link, so it's probably the easiest to get to. So if anyone's interested in checking out that Grant Writing 101 webinar, the link is in the chat box. Let's see, questions. A lot of these grants speak to underrepresented communities. What are some examples of common communities? What are some examples of common communities? For example, I work with lots of kids and lower income families.
Yeah, I think that, again, there's obviously some, what's the word? Some low-hanging fruit words or buzzwords that people like to use in the grant world. Underrepresented, underserved. I think it's almost, I would say it's the white male kids, but even those kids, I think in different environments are underserved. So I would really focus on how are these people that you're working with, how do they have a lack of outdoor exposure in their lives? And then figuring that out, that's how they're underserved. If you're not able to really make that argument, these grant opportunities might not be the best opportunity for you.
Thank you. Okay, and then how do you suggest measuring and providing qualitative metrics on the success of youth programs?
Well, I mean, we really look at all sorts of different metrics. Of course, we look at quantitative and qualitative. You know, we collect a lot of the anecdotal, like how do we change lives type of stories, which you can only get in a narrative. But then we also collect, you know, how many outings are you running with the program dollars that you have? What's the cost per participant? How many hours of outdoor activity? How many people engaged? How many youth engaged? And we're really trying to figure that out right now on what are the metrics that really matter that equal an argument that this is the formula to create a lifetime engagement with the outdoors. So I don't have all the answers on that, but we definitely collect a mix of qualitative and quantitative type of data.
And I would just add to that person that there's a lot of great resources on TYO for research, for evaluation, program evaluation. So there's a whole topic area on TYO on how to do program evaluation. And I believe we may have even have some webinars on there. So definitely look at some great opportunities on how to get measurements of success. Okay, for the Prana grant, does the organization need to be based in Manhattan Beach, or can the event take place in Manhattan Beach?
No, I mean, I think it's more where's the community that you're serving. If the community that you're serving is in Manhattan Beach, LA, it counts. If the community that you're serving isn't there, but you're bringing people in, it wouldn't count. So it really needs to be about the people that you're serving.
Thanks for the clarification. If you apply for multiple grants to cover the same line items of a budget, how do you ensure you don't win multiple grants to cover them? I think this kind of goes back to what you were talking earlier about being how they like to fund.
Maybe I'm not totally clear on what the question is asking.
So if you apply for multiple grants to cover the same line items of budget, how do you ensure you don't win multiple grants to cover them? So I think this is somebody who's asking, like, what happens if you apply for a number of different grants for the same thing and you get more than one?
That's a great problem to have. Probably doesn't happen that often. And I would say is that what I would expect is, one, that's great to hear. And two, then I would be looking at you to increase your numbers or impact because you have more funding and resources to do so. So for me, it's a really great positive, but I would be looking to see bigger impact with more resources.
Great. Can budgets be used to...
Sorry, just to close that out, I don't think any funder would go, oh my gosh, we're not going to give you this grant. I think any funder would say, well, great. So how can we really, again, measure and ensure that our dollars are increasing the impact? But it would be more like, tell us how you're going to do it, not you're not going to get the funding type of conversation.
Perfect. And then can budgets be used to support salaries or staff?
No, so that definitely goes into the overhead conversation. So with the exception of the North Face, all of these programs are really funding direct program costs. I actually got an email earlier today from someone asking about staff versus guide. And in that circumstance, it would definitely be appropriate for someone to include a guide expense in the programmatic budget, but staff salary should not show up in the budget. So salary, staffing, that's considered an overhead expense.
Great. Ivan, if you get a chance, can you put the link to the Prana grant in the chat box? Because typing the link isn't working, apparently.
Yep, no problem.
Cool. And then do you have samples of successful grants that they can look at? I don't know. Yeah.
Do I have examples of grant applications that folks can look at?
Yeah, do you have samples of, it just says, do you have samples of successful grants that people can look at?
I have information on who we have funded. So like with Paddle Nation, I can send you project summaries of projects that have been funded in other grants, and I can send reports, but I don't have a model application to view. So folks can follow up individually if they'd like more information on the who was funded.
Yeah, perfect. I think that was going to be my recommendation. So Meredith, feel free to follow up with Ivan directly, maybe a little bit more specifically what you're looking for. And then let's see, we got a couple more here as we're closing out. It says, understandably, most of these grants are geared towards youth. However, say you run an outdoor program for adults and youth is a small component of it, or youth also attend in addition to adults. Are there grant opportunities for programs that aren't just youth specific, but youth could engage?
Right now, all of the funding opportunities that I work with are really youth focused, and that tends to be where all of our grant making is really focused. I think that the more of the opportunities maybe through the National Recreation and Park Association and NEEF and some of those other opportunities aren't so youth specifically focused, but a lot of the ones that I manage are specifically youth focused.
Excellent. Tiffany, I see that you offer that to share your grant that was accepted by Keen Effect. If you can pop your contact info into the chat, then I can share it with everybody. And then we did have, let's see, I think we're pretty much, we're closing up. We did have one comment that heads up for organizations in the Houston, Austin, or San Antonio area. Neo Nature and Eclectic Outdoors has lots of equipment and expertise and is happy to help, is happy to partner on grants. And they are a 501(c), so neoproject.org. So if you're one of those local Texas areas, and they also come with recommendations from the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. So if you're looking to partner with an organization, neoproject.org could be a good opportunity for you if you're in Texas.
Hey, Severia, I also wanted to mention I just sent a chat link with the Prawn Explorer grant, but it might have only gone to you. So if you could just cut and paste that and send that to the group so that people have it.
Yep, sounds good. And then, let's see, for the North Face grant, if you are applying to the Protecting Our Environment focus, could grant funding be used for youth stipends if program is geared towards job skills development in the outdoor sector, and youth may be eligible to receive a stipend through participation?
The answer is yes and no. I mean, as you can imagine with these funding opportunities, we get a lot of requests for scholarships, camp scholarships, youth stipends, especially when it comes to like core work. And the answer is yes and no. I mean, we don't stay away from stipends, but I think that if it's part of the request, not I'm requesting $20,000 to go directly into stipends, but it's a mix of the request. I think it's appropriate. So the answer is yes and no. Don't make it the full request, but certainly a portion of the request is appropriate. Severia, you might be on mute again.
Indeed.
I had a feeling.
Thank you. The Prado link is up in the chat box as well. All right, we're gonna have, let's see. I'm gonna have one more question. So we have time for about two more questions, so we can get everybody out of here on time. So Ivan, one of the questions is, can you explain the guide expense again?
Yeah, so, if you are trying to fund someone who is a full-time staff member who's going to take kids, let's say, rafting down the Colorado, totally obscure example, you should not be requesting funding to support that staff person's salary or payment. But if you're bringing a group of kids and you get to the Colorado River and you're going to contract a guide to take your group down the river, that's considered a program cost, not a staffing cost. So if the person is part of the organization, it doesn't count and is considered, overhead. If you're contracting with someone specifically for this programmatic purpose, then they're a guide and a program expense.
Thanks for the clarification. So just so you guys know, everybody who is on the call, so everyone who attends our webinars, and even if you can't attend a webinar, but you RSVP, the recording of the webinars automatically gets sent to you, usually the day after. So for any of those that are curious to have that recording, just know that that will be coming to you. We also post it on YouTube, on the Transforming Youth Outdoors YouTube channel and on tyo.org. And we will put a copy of the presentation in the up on TYO as well, and try to get a link in the follow-up email so that you guys can access that pretty quickly. But definitely within the next 24 to 48 hours, a copy of the presentation and the full webinar recording will definitely be up on the tyo.org website. So feel free, if you pop in there, you can join for free and you'll have access to those as well. All right, so Ivan, I think we can wrap it up. Thank you, and just thank you guys all for those questions. They were really thoughtful, really good. Hopefully they were beneficial to everybody on the call. So really great discussion and follow-up. And Ivan, if you have anything else to close it out, I'll let you do it.
No, that's all. That's all. I just want to thank you, everybody. Please reach out to me directly with individual questions, as I'm sure there's many out there. And Severia, to you and everyone at TYO, thank you so much for having me again.
No problem. It's our pleasure. And hopefully we'll see everybody in the platform. So talk to you later and have a great day.